Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of UNW Strength TV in this kind of YouTube vlog or Instagram Live or Instagram TV format. I kind of cover like a topic that either an athlete has posed or just a question I feel like several people have and then hope to answer it. So today we're going to be talking about sport-specific training. Great question. I've actually gotten a couple of questions on it recently. So I wanted to talk today about sport specificity. I wanted to talk a little bit about how the weight room transfers to sport, and then what are some ways as you, the athlete, or you, the coach, can help athletes get better, particularly in the off season, usually when that question of sport-specific training comes up. So is there such thing as sport-specific training? Absolutely. In order to get better at a sport, you have to play that sport. And then there are times of year or there are certain circumstances like weather or facilities where you can't play that sport. Let's take soccer, for instance. We live in Minnesota. There comes a time of year where snow falls on the ground and you can't play soccer outside year round. Now, it could be as easy as using a derivative of that, like the game of futsal in a gym space. That would be a soccer-specific form of training, right? So one thing that is often referenced when it comes to the transfer of training is Bondarchuk's transfer of training triangle. So you can see that at the top of the triangle, you have the sport event. So let's say it's something like soccer. That is the competitive game. That's all of like the conditions, the elements, the tactical execution, the time of year. You're in the conference championship. You're playing a rival. Like all of that competitiveness in the game itself, right? Officiated. It's for score or for points. That is the top of that triangle. And then as you move down, the next thing is that orange bar is the competitive exercise. That would be like practice, any type of soccer practice, whether you're doing like small side games, or they're doing like basic skills or warm ups. Like it looks a lot like soccer, but it's not, the game of soccer. The next thing down from that would be like specific developmental exercises. So maybe you're doing some small derivative of soccer. This is where like futsal would come in. The ball is different. The size of the space is different. It's not a scrimmage. It represents the game, but it's not the game specifically. Even further down, like specific preparatory exercises, could be something more weight room based, something like some of the agility days that we do. The ball's not involved. You're not really out on the turf. It's a little bit more far removed. And then the last thing, the bottom, would be a general preparatory exercise, which could literally just be something like running or something like lifting, in that kind of continuum of general to specific, just using soccer as an example. And you could fit in whatever sport you'd like. So is there such thing as sport-specific training? Absolutely. Getting more specific the further up that triangle example, as you get farther up the triangle example. The second question I hope to answer is, and we kind of did a little bit, is like, how does the weight room then transfer to sport? So in my example of the triangle, the weight room is really just in those bottom two bars, right? So you can see that really, if we're in the weight room, there isn't a whole lot of specificity. Again, speaking to the game of soccer, there's no goals. There's no ball. There's not even soccer-like movements. So what on earth is the benefit of the weight room? And it's mostly a physiological benefit or a bodily benefit, right? We're working on getting tissue more resilient. We're working on getting the body better at producing force, i.e. stronger, quicker at producing force, i.e. more powerful, and then hopefully building the body to be more robust so that it can play the game longer. So purely preparatory in a general sense. The other thing the weight room can provide is it can provide some psychological benefits, right? As you increase in your ability to produce force, you feel stronger, and if you feel like you're stronger than your opponent or more ready, that can be a nice mental benefit in the game that you're playing. Another benefit of the weight room is time together, some of that relational piece with your teammates. It's an opportunity to get together in the off season, and then problem solving. We see a lot of benefit in the weight room of being able to use your body to solve problems, use your relationships with your teammates to group up and talk about solving problems, particularly in some of my like agility offerings or speed offerings, and then a little bit of gamesmanship too. You get to come in and you got to solve problems, or your opinion is asked, and you get to kind of choose, and those small parts of the benefits of the weight room, with the biggest being physiological and maybe relational, potentially psychological benefits. The third question I sought to ask is, so what are some ways that an athlete can work on their game in the off season? Again, if you go back to the triangle, to get better at sport, the most important thing is to experience the competition itself. Well, you're in the off season and you're not competing right now. You're not playing 11v11 football. You're not playing full court 5-on-5 basketball, right? So some derivative of that is super ideal at getting better at your sport. You need to see that slight variation from it. So, if I'm an American football player and I want to get better in the off season, like getting together and playing a little bit of Skelly, although it's, not super common, would be one great way. And think about other sports that do this well. Soccer does this with futsal. Lacrosse does this with box lacrosse. Basketball does this by just playing some 3v3 or some open gym. It's a lot easier to progress at your sport if you're playing your sport or a part of your sport. Another thing that an athlete can do in the offseason is they can lift. They can work on some of those general qualities, be more physiologically ready for the next season, right? It'll keep you more available, which allows you to play. It'll keep you more resilient from injury, which everyone wants. And it might boost some that psychological benefit, knowing that you've gotten stronger and are more capable to overpower or overcome either the rigors of the game or the rigors of another opponent. Another thing that an off-season athlete could do is condition. And this is where training really can get specific to your sport or to your position within a sport, is conditioning. A lot of times when people hear the word conditioning, they're just picturing like running and road work. Well, let's say I'm like a offensive lineman, right? My position does not require that I do a ton of running, right? In fact, I'm probably not really moving my body for more than like 5 to 7 seconds max at a time before resting, coming to the next line of scrimmage, really intense for like, again, 5, 7, sometimes 8 or 9 seconds, and then done, right? So do conditioning that looks like that, right? Sprinting, intervals on a bike, some basic grappling, like timed intervals of some of those things. It can be really potent conditioning. Think about how you play your sport and the way you play your sport, and then just match your conditioning like that. One of the biggest errors I see athletes make is they think the off season is just, I got to go puke a lot. No, you just got to become better conditioned or maintain the conditioning that you established in season so that you're ready for the next season, right? And then the last thing would be specific skills. Every single sport has a specific skillful element, right? If I'm a tennis player, they're like, serving is a skill, right? I have to practice that skill. If I'm a baseball player, like hitting and throwing are skills. You can't go an entire offseason without at least seeing some of the skillful parts of your game at some point, and still expect to get better. Like, you have to do the skills. So again, just kind of wrapping up on this whole conversation of sport specificity. Does it exist? Absolutely. Does it exist in the weight room? I'm having a hard time finding a place where like true sport specificity, here's a soccer specific lift, or here's a football specific lift, or this lift is fantastic for a track athlete. I don't always see that. I do see a lot of sport general training in the weight room, a lot of general sport benefits that all athletes would gain from spending time there, but don't go fishing for sport specificity in the weight room. Build up the body so that you can go do those sport-specific things that you need, the skillful elements, the conditioning pieces, playing the game within the game on your own and with your teammates, and in your non-traditional seasons with your collegiate team here at Northwestern. So hope that answers some questions. Hopefully sparks that some good ideas in your mind on ways that you can get better. And really, guys, that's what it's all about. So how are we using our time to get better, especially with what we're called to, especially how we're competing with purpose, we're preparing with purpose throughout the entire year. So hopefully that answers some questions and clears up some notions on sport specificity. If you got any other good questions for some of these types of videos, don't hesitate to let me know via DMs or email. Again, this is Taylor Gish with UNW Strength and Conditioning. Have a wonderful rest of your day.